Hey everyone, Ryan Badgley from the Barfly Tailgate Show, and football season is kicking off, and I know you feel like I do, so to steal a phrase from WWE superstar Daniel Bryan, yes, yes, yes! And I also know you are like me and you love the work Allen Robinson is putting out on the football field, but also off the field. That's why we're so pleased to partner with the Allen Robinson Within Reach Foundation. Their work provides educational opportunities and resources to low-income and inner-city Chicago students to help put success within reach. How can you help? Immediately you can visit allenrobinson12.org and learn more about what they are doing and make a donation. If you can't donate money, can you donate your time? The foundation is always looking for volunteers. And please let others know about their great work. In the coming weeks, the Barroom Network will hold some fundraising efforts, and we hope that you'll be a part of those. And again, let your family and friends know. Now, how about them Chicago Bears? I'm so psyched up for this season. I think A-Rob has 100 catches and double-digit touchdowns. Now let's bear down.
Look, I don't mean any disrespect. He just didn't play that well. Not for a guy of his caliber.
If they don't run the ball here, I'm going to vomit. I swear to God.
I don't really have any recollection of that at all, but I guess perhaps I blacked it all out.
You know, they won, but I'm going to be miserable all week because they stunk.
Doug Buffone.
This defense sucks. This is moronic.
John Buffone.
If your best run plays are coming off end arounds, there's a problem.
Doug was behind the microphone first. He never held back.
Very difficult to score when your offense is on the bench. When your defense is out there giving up 70, 80, 70, 64-yard drives.
Now, it's his nephew, John, and there's no holding this Buffone back either.
An offensive-minded coach that's running an offense that got 9 yards and a half. A beaten-up defense that isn't necessarily performing in key situations. And a quarterback that was expected to take a big step forward looks like an unsalvageable wreck.
I've had it. I have had it. I want somebody to get kicked in the ass.
How many games can you rattle off that involve the team running the ball 7 times and they win? I can't think of any.
I don't mind you getting beat. I got my ass whipped many times. But I tell you, I took somebody down with me.
Because Bears fans wanted to believe in the worst way that Chicago had a stable, competitive franchise. And this is what we got.
It's Buffone 55, the John Buffone Show.
You're listening to the Ballroom Network. The following program is intended for all audiences. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Goon Podcast with your hosts, Joe Mandel, the Goon, and John Santucci, the Tooch. We're bringing you the fantasy football knowledge that you need every single week.
Derrick Henry still going. Stays in bounds. He might go. 99 yards for the touchdown. Unbelievable.
Flushed out again, all the way back. Turning the corner, fires downfield. Caught. Touchdown. Only Mahomes turns what might have been a 15-yard sack into a 27-yard touchdown.
Saquon Barkley across midfield, down the sideline, stayed in bounds, and Barkley takes it all the way. 68 yards for his first NFL touchdown. McCaffrey right up the middle, and he is gone for the touchdown. 58 yards. Pass is to Thomas. He's gone. Touchdown Saints.
Okay, it's time for the easiest part of any coach's job. to cut. Now, while I wasn't able to cut everyone I wanted to, I have cut a lot of you. Steven, I like your hustle. That's why it was so hard to cut you. Congratulations. The rest of you made the team. Except you, and you.
God bless fantasy football. There are many things a man can do with his time. And this, better than those things.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Goon podcast. I am one of your hosts, Joe Mandel, the Goon, and joining me, as always, is my buddy John Santucci, the Tooch. And Tooch, we're all feeling hurt this week, aren't we?
I feel like I have an injury after watching all those injuries this week.
Yeah, it's leaving fantasy owners in a bad spot, man. I mean, there's so much that needs to happen on waivers. There's so many big names that are hurt and out, and it really complicates the fantasy landscape. It's been a rough weekend, man.
Yeah, some big names, Joe. Big names.
Let's dip into that list a little bit, shall we, Tooch? So,
tear the Band-Aid off. Rip that off.
Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Of course, the top pick in most fantasy leagues this week was Christian McCaffrey. This season. He's got a high ankle sprain, Tooch. It sounds like he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, he wants to try and come back earlier. So we'll see. You know, I would reevaluate this, look at it again in about 3 weeks. Definitely out this weekend, though. You're looking at Mike Davis, Joe.
Yes, once we get to the waivers section, that's a name that's on that list. But, man, you haven't heard that name for a while.
No, he was on the Bears last year.
He did nothing on the Bears.
He had a cup of coffee on the Bears last year.
He did have a cup of coffee. That's about it. And then he left. But, of course, the other name here, Tooch, is the number 2 overall pick. His injury was much more severe. We're talking about Saquon Barkley suffering a torn ACL, and he is out for the entire year, Tooch. Mm-hmm. And the Giants are in trouble, as so are fantasy owners.
It's brutal, but they signed Devontae Freeman, so things are looking up. We'll talk about that in the waiver wire section as well. But, man, for the number 2 overall pick in most fantasy drafts, and another loss, right? He was out last year too. Yeah.
He was injured on and off last year. I don't think he missed the whole season.
Right. And the season before that?
Yes, the season before that, he missed a good chunk of time as well.
Right. So some bad luck these past 2-3 years for Saquon.
Bad luck for Saquon Barkley, and also Devontae Adams on this list too. He's got a hamstring. They're saying he might miss the next week and be back after the bye. And their bye is week 5?
Saw an update just now, Joe. Breaking news on Devontae Adams.
What's the breaking news, Tooch?
Packers wide receiver. This is from Tom Pelissero. Packers wide receiver Devontae Adams' hamstring strain is considered minor, sources say, but his status is to be determined this week's game against the Saints. So it could be back sooner than the forecasted time away. But
that sounds like a game time decision to me, Tooch. In fantasy, those are always tricky.
Yep.
So keep your eyes on Devontae Adams. This is a big name, guys. He's been I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but he's been one of the most highly targeted wide receivers to start the season. Obviously, Devontae Adams is a monster. And another number 1 wide receiver, Tooch, a guy that we were high on, at least I was going into the season, Courtland Sutton, tore his ACL, and he's also out for the entire season. He had an AC joint injury before that, and this guy just can't catch a break.
Yeah, it's a tough break. He was really from all accounts, having a great offseason in camp. And now to tear his ACL in the second game, it's brutal, and that's a big blow. The Broncos also lost their starting quarterback, Drew Lock, to also a sprained shoulder. And now it's time for guys like Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler and Tim Patrick to step up. But a guy who's been stepping up on the Broncos, Joe, Noah Fant, a touchdown in both games this season. One touchdown.
He's a touchdown machine.
So yeah, I've got a stat again. I'll give you later for the tight end section. So, but Noah Fant will play a role in that stat.
And Tooch, Drew Lock, we don't have this on our list, but Drew Lock also injured.
Yeah,
looks like he's going to miss at least a couple weeks.
Out 2 to 6 weeks with a sprained shoulder. And he's replaced by Jeff Driscoll, who was on the Lions last year.
Jeff Driscoll was, and he's actually a quality backup. So I think they're going to be okay. I think, but obviously the Broncos losing Cortland Sutton is a huge blow for them.
Really
Jeff Judy owners though have to be smiling from ear to ear, I would imagine.
And KJ Hamler looks to be healthy now. He was banged up in camp in the first game of the season as well. This last game did a little bit of damage there to the opposing team. That was the Steelers they played, right, Joe?
Yes, it is, and that's a great defense. And we're still talking offense here. Another big name, Tooch, Raheem Mostert for the 49ers.
Yeah,
this is a guy that had a huge game to start on Sunday.
He had an 80-yard run. Looked like he was shot out of a cannon, Joe.
I believe he set a speed record of some sort for that run. And, of course, he got hurt, and they don't really know how long he's going to be out. I haven't seen a report yet.
Right.
He's got a sprained knee, so it's a very vague injury.
Yeah, could be back next week, though. Likely out this week. You're looking at Jerick McKinnon, who looked pretty good in his limited role. Tevin Coleman in that backfield also has a knee injury. So Mostert and Coleman both with knee injuries. Yeah,
and I saw a funny meme. I'll have to pull it up on Twitter after the show, but it was like Thanos with Gamora, like in the little dream world, and it's like, you beat the Jets. What did it cost? And it says everything.
Can we talk a little bit about that for a second? Because that's great. That's a great point, because it cost the 49ers not only some of their offensive players, but a lot of their defensive players. Joe, I want to talk about Nick Bosa, who's probably their best pass rusher.
Oh, absolutely.
Tore his ACL. He's out for the season. D Ford, who's probably their second best pass rusher, he's injured. He'll miss, I think, this coming game.
Might be about 1 to 3 weeks, I think they said.
1 to 2 weeks for D Ford. And Solomon Thomas, I think, is out for the season as well. So that's three of their pass rushers. And, of course, they lost Jimmy Garoppolo as well. He's got a high ankle sprain. He'll be out for maybe 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, that sucks.
This meme is quite – I don't know who's gonna rush the passer for the 49ers.
I mean, they're in trouble, man. I mean, that's a good defense, but, to beat a team like that, you didn't really have to – I mean, you're not going to bench your starters in week 2 of the season. I get it.
Sherman is still out.
Sherman is on IR.
He's gone. So
who knows? I don't know if it's a long-term IR or short-term, but because IR doesn't mean anything this year anymore. It could be 3 weeks.
Right, could be 3 weeks. Now the 49ers traveled to the Giants across country, so that was why I kind of like some of those. I know Sterling Shepard got a turf toe injury. I like and Saquon, of course, is out too. So guys like Evan Engram and Darius Slayton and Golden Tate really have an opportunity to put together some nice games here.
Golden Tate's a guy that I've been talking about, and he hasn't really stepped up yet. So I imagine it's going to happen now. So I'm a big fan of Golden Tate. He's available in a surprisingly a large amount of leagues because of his weak performance the first 2 weeks of the season. So Golden Tate definitely worth a flyer to pick up. And Tooch, real quick before we move on, we do have a quick question in the chat.
Oh, all right.
So Steve Zimmerman's got a question.
Are working now. They're here giving us those questions. That's great.
Yeah, Steve Zimmerman asking a question about Cortland Sutton. Y'all, I got to replace Cortland Sutton. I'm torn between CeeDee Lamb or Darnell Mooney. I like Mooney's upside, but I'm probably just being a homer. And you are 100% being a homer, Zim, because CeeDee Lamb is a speed demon, and he's going to be used in that offense. I like CeeDee Lamb a lot moving out the rest of the season. Tooch,
last week, I think he had 9 targets.
Yeah, you agree with me, Tooch?
Yeah, I would. I love Darnell Mooney. I love his change of direction, his speed. He's raw, though, but really shows a lot of promise. But CeeDee Lamb is a guy who's going to be, guaranteed this role. You saw how many targets he got last week.
He's a high draft pick.
they throw the ball a lot
Yeah.
in Dallas. And it was a high draft pick as well. So
They had no business winning that game, Tooch.
right.
And we got one more question before we move on as well.
All right.
The barkeeper is asking a question on behalf of his friend Diego. Diego is contemplating dropping Drew Brees for Ryan Tannehill. Thoughts? While I admire his moxie, Diego, I cannot advise pulling the trigger there.
Wow.
Brees has a lot of weapons. He's had a slow start to the year, but Drew Brees is notorious for getting on fire, week 5, week 4.
Can I talk to Diego for a second?
Yeah, Diego, if you're listening or you're watching the replay, please don't do it.
I was in this exact same situation, but I had I drafted Drew Brees. I don't remember what round, but later on I drafted Josh Allen, and Josh Allen had that monster first week. I cut Drew Brees the next week, and I'm riding Josh Allen the full way. You can pick up guys like I said. Tannehill's out there. Of course, I had Josh Allen on my bench. I love Tannehill. They have a good offensive line. I love their play action game.
Oh yeah.
When A.J. Brown comes back, I think they're going to be that much more dangerous. But Ryan Tannehill, look what he's done the last part of last season and then the first 2 games this season. He's been great.
You can't argue with that. I mean, I think you pick him up, but I don't think you drop Drew Brees.
I think Tannehill has had 7 or 8 straight games of 20-plus fantasy points. So.
Yep, and Aaron Curran agrees with what I just said. Maybe pick him up and just put him on your bench. I mean, Ryan Tannehill, they paid him, and he's performing. He's exactly what they need down there in Tennessee.
I did drop Brees, and I think you could drop Brees and see who picks them up and what they drop. If you've got someone else as a backup, I don't know. Drew Brees, especially with the Michael Thomas injury, I don't think he's worth holding on to. That's just me. There's so many other guys that you can.
Tooch feels very differently about.
I'm on the
Drew Brees
side of the fence on this one.
See, I like Brees, but I think he just lost his number 1 wideout. It's going to take him a couple weeks. He's a buy low candidate. If someone drops him, pick him up, stash him on your bench. It's going to work out for you. So, and then before we move on, Zim's got one more question. He wants to know Chase Edmonds or Darnell Mooney. Do you have Kenyon Drake? That's the real question.
Yeah.
If you have Kenyon Drake, then you keep Chase Edmonds.
So Mooney scored a touchdown last week, correct?
Yes, he did.
Man, I mean, I've been having this battle within myself of hanging on to handcuffs, Joe. It's like they take up a lot of room on my bench.
They do. You got to be careful.
I've got Chase Edmonds and who's my other running back? I forget. I've got 2 handcuffs on my bench for the guys
takes up a lot of space for guys you're not using. So
right. I've got, in case either of my top 2 running back goes down, I've got their backups, which, I don't know. Maybe they never go down. It's just, I don't know. There might be guys, there's a philosophy, if you want to hold on to the handcuffs, fine, but you're going to lose a position player like an extra tight end or a 5th wide receiver. So that's the sacrifice you make, or a second quarterback, things like that. But if you decide to cut those handcuffs loose, and you can always pick up a guy. I mean, like look at all the waiver wire guys we're going to talk about, especially at the running back position today. Guys like Jarrett McKinnon, Darrell Henderson, Devontae Freeman, Wayne Gallman, Deion Lewis. I mean, so I'm kind of I'm leaning towards cutting the handcuffs loose.
Yeah, it depends on your situation, Zim. So definitely something to consider.
But Chase Edmonds could have a big game this week. They're at home against the Lions.
Yeah, I love all the Cardinals. We're gonna get there after we get through the injuries, which we're almost there. So we're gonna pick it back up, gang. Walking through the injuries.
Yep.
Let's talk about one that really hit me close to home, and that's Tyrod Taylor. He had chest pains right before the game. I think he played the first snap, and then he went to the hospital. And then Justin Herbert came in, and I started Tyrod in my big league with the Blitz Network in that crazy 32-round crazy draft. And
quarterback.
He's my second flex quarterback.
Okay.
And I ended up losing by. He didn't even play. I ended up losing by 7 points.
And there was no announcement until the game started, I think, with Herbert just like they were like, "You're starting, kid," right?
Yeah. Yep. That's so that was rough, but it sounds like he's doing okay. Sounds like he's week to week, so that's good news for Tyrod. Of course, Michael Thomas still out for a while with that ankle injury. Yeah. Chris Godwin cleared concussion protocol, so he will be playing this week. Yep. Le'Veon Bell still out on IR with that hamstring.
George Kittle, doubtful, I think. He might likely out. I mean, his replacement didn't do too bad, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, Old Man
River, Jordan Reed came in, had 2 touchdowns. Whenever Jordan Reed takes over for somebody, he does great,
He's a great part-timer.
Yeah, he's a great part-timer. Yeah.
And lastly, Kenny Golladay still banged up for the Lions, but it sounds like he might return this week. They could use him, that's for sure.
Yep.
And Tooch, let's talk a little bit about waivers, because waivers process in the morning. Yeah. And you've got all these magical, horrible injuries. So now here you are, you're stuck. You lose your number 1, your number 2 guy. You lose your number 1 wide receiver. What are you doing going into waivers this week, Tooch? I mean, we talked a little bit about Mike Davis for the Panthers. This is a guy that's owned in roughly 5% of leagues, maybe even a little bit less than that.
Yep. So Mike Davis, McCaffrey's coming back. He's gonna will himself back in 3, 4, 5 weeks. So you're getting, especially if you're spending fab bucks, you're getting Mike Davis, for probably a pretty high price for at most 6 weeks of usage. Is that worth it? I think it's a pretty good.
I'd say so.
If you're a McCaffrey owner, I think he had 8 catches in his action. Didn't run the ball much. Had 8 targets, 8 catches. So he did most of his damage, and pass receiving. And then of course there's other running backs out there too, Joe. Who's going to replace Saquon Barkley?
Well, that's a magic question, isn't it, Tooch? Because
is it Mike Davis? I know last year it was Reggie Bonifon. So they practice squad and they activated him.
They signed somebody today, though, Tooch. The Giants did.
This is the Panthers. So
the Panthers.
Panthers, Reggie Bonifon, who is on the practice squad now. Wayne Gallman was inactive last week, and then the Giants made a big signing today.
Yes, the Giants did. But Mike Davis is the guy you want to look at for the Panthers.
Right now,
well, I think so.
Davis. Reggie Bonifon, very talented though. He filled in last year a few times for McCaffrey.
I think if you're going to make a claim, you're making one for Davis, and then you're going to see what happens. It's a tough situation, but
caveat that Bonifon can pass him up, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, don't spend a lot of free agent bucks, and then drop a bum for him, or drop someone that's injured, probably Saquon.
Yep.
But Tooch,
the Giants backfield.
The Giants backfield. They went and signed Devontae Freeman today, Tooch, and I think that's probably got to be the guy you look at, right? But you don't learn the playbook, though, in a couple of days. That's the thing.
No, but he'll be, like Leonard Fournette, he'll be up to speed in a game or two. So you saw what happened. I really like Ronald Jones in that Buccaneers game. He looked great, started out great. He had a touchdown. And then we found out that Bruce Arians has a doghouse, right, Joe?
Yes, he does. He fumbled it up, and then Leonard Fournette becoming a fantasy monster.
Probably will not relinquish that spot.
Nope. Fournette will be the guy the rest of the season.
I think so,
and this is the point of the show where we mentioned the crazy trade that happened in the Barroom League today. Spaceball unloading Lamar Jackson for Leonard Fournette. And he walked me through his mindset.
Quarterback.
He doesn't have another quarterback.
Okay, so he's got to pick one up. Waivers.
But there's like Joe Burrow on waivers. There's
Ryan Tannehill.
His thought process is he wants to get a bell cow back that he thinks Fournette's going to be, and I agree with him. And then, quarterback's not worth anything. And this is the week. I mean, this of all weeks was the week to prove that, Tooch. You and I talked about this yesterday.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, the two quarterbacks first taken off the board, finishing number 12 and 13, I think, at fantasy quarterbacks this week.
Yep.
So is it worth taking a quarterback early anymore? That's a legit conversation, and I don't think it's worth it.
Matchups, though, you know. I mean,
yeah, they had tougher matchups. So you had the Colts,
had
the Chargers.
Mahomes had the Chargers, and that's a good defense. And Lamar Jackson was at the Texans?
Yeah,
he was at Houston, right?
He was at Houston, but I mean,
which is an okay defense, but
they had a good game plan. But this is what Aldo has to say about that trade. The reefer in California must be really strong.
I said the same thing when I heard that. I was like, I hope Spaceball sends me a care package.
Yeah, I mean, but Spaceball even called me because I had messaged him in Sleeper,
right?
And I'm like, this is legit, right? You didn't accidentally send this through, because Gaines contacts me. He's like, yeah, he offered it to me, and I took it. I'm like, yeah, you took it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can see his reasoning. I mean, Lamar Jackson, we figured he was going to have a regression this season. We talked about it before.
Yeah.
Before the season, you and I talked about how teams would game plan for Lamar Jackson. They probably wouldn't let him run as much. And you know, he's not like a pure passer, you know, like Mahomes and other players of that caliber. He's more of an athlete, damn good athlete, who can throw the ball and can run the ball, but he's not like a pure pocket passer with pinpoint accuracy like Mahomes. But like I said, Mahomes still is a top fantasy play, I think.
And plus, Tooch, he's the cover athlete of Madden, so that means he's going to get hurt inevitably, right?
I hope not. I've got him in a league or two.
Well, we'll see. And you know, talking more about waivers, Tooch, there was some big performances this week from guys
who we were going to get on the Giants. Who you should target?
It's tough. I say I think Freeman's going to get enough playing time this week. I really do. I think you got to grab him because he's only owned in like 10% of leagues.
I think you grab him, and you may not get to play him this week, but in the long run, he'll be taking most of the carries. Now, the Giants' offensive line is terrible, so just keep that in mind. He might not perform, you know, and they have a brutal schedule. I mean, you might want to think about getting Mike Davis or Darrell Henderson, you know, or Jerick McKinnon, some of those guys.
Well, that's where I was going next with the waivers, is you got a lot of this Rams backfield. The guy that I talked about a lot going into the season that kind of faded, Darrell Henderson, you know, got Cam Akers banged up, and same thing with Malcolm Brown. He's got a finger injury.
Yeah, he split his finger, I think, something like that.
Yeah, I don't exactly even know what the hell that means.
Yeah.
But Henderson, you know, is the guy that's healthy, and he had 81 yards rushing and a touchdown.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that is a must-add on waivers. I think he could be very, very, very promising for your fantasy lineup, Tooch. Now that he has the opportunity, he hasn't had to be the opportunity to be the lead dog, and I really like Henderson. I don't know if he's given this job back, Tooch.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Sean McVay is one of those guys that likes to, you know, use multiple running backs. But right now, Malcolm Brown and Cam Akers both are, you know, they have injuries. Cam Akers a little more seriously. Malcolm Brown will probably play a little bit, but I think in this next game at least, Darrell Henderson will get the majority of the work.
Absolutely, man. And then a guy that I was talking about last week, who's still criminally underowned in fantasy, Tooch, is the wide receiver out of Atlanta, Russell Gage.
Yeah.
This guy is a target machine.
I should go back and look at my notes about what I said about Russell Gage. I can't remember. I think we talked about him in our NFC preview.
Guess how many targets he has through 2 games, Tooch, for Russell Gage?
24?
21.
21. Okay, that was close.
You know who has the only person with more targets on the team, Tooch? Calvin Ridley.
Okay.
And he's only got 22, so he's tied basically.
He basically tied. Yeah, I did have him listed in the Outlook, and we see his numbers last year. He finished as number 71 overall fantasy wide receiver, 49 receptions last year, 446 yards and a touchdown. And this year he looks to shatter that, Joe.
Oh, absolutely, brother. Absolutely. So you gotta go with that. To find a wide receiver like that on waivers, it's so rare.
Yeah.
And Tooch, I'm gonna go with one more guy that you really got to get off waivers, and it's someone that I can't believe is still owned in less than 50% of leagues. Tooch, it's the Minshew Magic.
Yeah.
Gardner Minshew. I think he's only owned in like 40% of leagues, 45% of leagues. This is a guy that just slings it. Tooch and I have a new nickname for Minshew. Tooch. He's the new garbage man.
New garbage man. But man, he's not only getting garbage time, but he's winning some of those games at the end.
He's just quality. He's quality. He's better than Blake Bortles, who also signed a deal today, by the way.
So I've got the Ravens are home against the Chiefs, I think. And Minshew's got a great matchup. I have both these guys on one team. I'm thinking about starting Minshew on Thursday over Lamar Jackson, against the Chiefs.
I love Minshew against the Dolphins. I think he's gonna eat. The over, I think, is set at like 46.
Lamar Jackson?
Probably not.
No, I'm thinking about it.
I'm just thinking of man, that's tough because the Dolphins have looked inconsistent on defense, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
But we know what Lamar Jackson can do any given week. So I don't think he's quite there yet, but I think you'll start him. I think he falls inside the top 7 at quarterback for sure.
Right, because the Dolphins are terrible against the wide receiver. They're like almost last in the league. Against quarterbacks, they are second to last against the league. They're allowing 33 fantasy points per game.
Yeah.
Versus the quarterback. Now the Chiefs, on the other hand, are allowing 23 fantasy points per game to the quarterback. And that's kind of about where Lamar Jackson has been these past, couple weeks, around 20 to 30.
One day he's just going to explode, and when he gets his groove going,
we got to find the right matchup for Lamar.
Yeah, you just don't want Lamar to explode on your bench, so I totally get that. But I do like Minshew. So those are some of the guys you got to look at waivers. Get your claims in tonight. They process in the morning, so get your waivers going, people. It's Bixby from the chat. Wants to know what he should do with Christian McCaffrey. We briefly touched on it before, but we will repeat ourselves just for the listening public so that they know. CMC going to be out probably 3 to 4 weeks. We like Mike Davis to come in and start and be the guy right away. So get your claim in on Davis. He's going to be a hot commodity this week.
Yeah, and there's guys out there you can, plug in until C-Mac comes back. I'm talking guys like, Jerick McKinnon, who kind of has a similar role. And another guy, if I can't imagine he's not owned anymore, is James Robinson, who's got a great matchup this week. If you could pick him up, I'm sure he's already picked up, though. And then we talked about Devontae Freeman. In any one of those 3 guys you could pick up on waivers this week, I would go ahead and try. I mean,
if I'm putting a priority, I think I like Davis the best to kind of come right in because he has the experience with the team. He's got the pieces around him, and they're going to run the ball. And Teddy Bridgewater, he threw 2 picks last week. He hasn't looked great to start the year. They're going to be running the ball. They're going to have to open it up with play action. So Mike Davis is probably the safest claim on waivers this week.
Especially if you own C-Mac. So
absolutely. If you own C-Mac, you got to get him. It's just the way it is. And before we move into the fantasy goal games of the week 2, we got one more trade question.
Oh.
Kessick III wants to know, I am trading Jared Cook for Leonard Fournette. Yay? ?
Yay.
I say yay.
Yep.
I mean, you're getting a stud running back. He's coming into his own. You got to get Fournette now before his value, erupts. So yes, I like it.
Yep, get him now. And I mean, I like Jared Cook. I mean, there's just no running backs are the scarcest commodity.
Totally, you gotta get them.
Yeah.
If you have a bad running back, you're screwed. And Tooch, let's touch on these fantasy gold games of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Fantasy Gold on Thursday night. I've had numerous friends of mine text me and say, "Oh my God, what a dumpster fire of a game on Thursday night!" And I couldn't disagree more, Tooch. I think this is going to be a great game. They're teams that are starting to improve. They're young. They've got great pieces. They're exciting to watch. I'm looking forward to this game.
They're not very good on defense.
There'll be a lot of points scored.
Yeah, I do.
So I love the Fantasy Gold. I want all the Jaguars and Dolphins starting that I can, and I have to sneeze, so I'm going to let you continue talking about this game.
I also like the Jaguars to win this game. I mean, that while they haven't been great on defense, they haven't been horrible. I mean, like the Dolphins have been pretty bad on defense. The Jaguars have been competitive. So I do like the Jaguars to win this game on the road. I like the weapons that Minshew has. I like Minshew's ability to
grow a mustache,
that and to will his team to win. He makes plays, and he's not only good at football, he's good at fantasy football.
He is good at fantasy football. I bet the Jaguars to win with the over. So
nice.
We're gonna see what happens. I got a little parlay action going on.
Nice.
So I like that. I think they're a 2-point favorite, 2.5-point favorite, and the over/under I think is like 47.5.
Hard to find some Fantasy Gold games this week. I was struggling there at the end, but
you had to dig. I mean, Cowboys and Seahawks.
That'll be pretty high scoring, I think.
I mean, look at what happened with the Cowboys last week, and the Seahawks were putting up points left and right on Sunday night. What a game!
Cowboys defense not
banged
as
up.
Advertised. Yeah, they're banged up, and I like the Seahawks to win that game. But I think there'll be some points scored in that game. Both teams are deep at wide receiver. They both have good running backs, and they both have good quarterbacks. So this should be an offensive.
Hell to the yes. And Tooch, your next Fantasy Gold game, why don't you tell the people? Because I'm with you. I think this is going to be a point explosion.
Yeah, I mean, both teams are terrible on defense right now. The Eagles' offensive line is banged up.
Horrible.
And the Bengals just can't stop. They don't have no pass rush. So I think Carson Wentz should have some time to throw. He's been short on wide receivers, so he's been using guys like Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz, although I think Goddard might be the better fantasy tight end right now on that team. I'm not sure, Joe. Maybe it'll flip-flop as the season goes on.
It probably will, but I mean, I still think you got to own Goddard. I think he's going to be a quality option for you.
That's right. And then Joe Burrow throwing 60 passes last week. I mean, I could see this game, getting up there and it becoming a scoring fest. So we'll see. Miles Sanders, is still running the ball for the Eagles. He's back. He looked good. And Bengals also have Joe Mixon. They've got some good wideouts, and they lost their tight end. So I've got a super sleeper, Joe, in that game.
Drew Sample.
Tight end Drew Sample, I think, had 7 targets. He's a nice big size target for the young quarterback of the Bengals.
Would you say we saw a sample size on Thursday night?
We saw a sample of Sample.
Oh man, we're just right. chock full of dad jokes, Tooch.
Mm-hmm.
But that game's Fantasy Gold, and of course, Packers at Saints.
Yep.
The Saints couldn't stop the Raiders last night. The Packers, their defense has been iffy at best.
Right.
And I think you're going to see points galore. I want every piece of that game. Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara.
Another guy who was shot out of a cannon, Joe. There was guys that gave up chasing him. And that long touchdown run for Aaron Jones. I just saw him he was 10 yards out in front, 15 yards, and then
he blasted him away, man.
They just stopped running, started jogging, and then gave up. It was something to see, man. Aaron Jones. Why do we criminally underrate Aaron Jones? Is it because they drafted AJ Dillon?
Yeah. I don't know, but Aaron Jones
too, man. I wish I had picked him up instead of who I did pick up. I might rather have Aaron Jones than Dalvin Cook or Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Josh Jacobs. I might rather have.
I still like CEH. I think CEH
I do too, but he's a rookie. And Aaron Jones, man, Aaron Jones has the potential to put up 50 points.
Now they're using him.
Yeah, I don't know if Clyde Edwards-Helaire will put up a big, gigantic game like that. I think guys like Aaron Jones and Derrick Henry and C-Mac and
oh yeah,
those are the ones that put those kind of games together. I just don't see that with CEH maybe next year. But at this point, if someone were to offer me a trade, Aaron Jones for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I'd sign off on that immediately.
Hey man, you got it. I don't know yet. I don't know if I would. I think it's too early. Don't jump the ship too early in week 2, but keep your guns chugging. And of course, to wrap things up, Tooch, what a game coming up on Sunday night of next week. It's the Ravens going and hosting the Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl champs. Lamar versus Mahomes. Lickety split, fantasy gold, kaboom, kabang, get them all going.
That's right. Well, whereas the Packers and the Saints will be without Devonta Adams and Michael Thomas, the Chiefs and Ravens will be with their top 2 guys, Mahomes and Jackson. You'll see a rematch of the AFC Championship.
I love it. It's going to be a great game. So fire them all up. It's fantasy magic.
Yeah, I think this game, while it has the potential to explode, I think both teams are pretty good on defense. I think it has a chance to also, kind of level out. Maybe they start slow, and then, by the second half they're figuring each other out, and that's when the points are scored. But I could see a slow start to this game, Joe.
Absolutely, brother. Could definitely happen, but either way, you're firing them all up. Fantasy gold. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And Tooch, let's get into our starts and sits, bro.
Yeah, I just want to take a look at something here, Joe. Get my magic stat book out. And while you were talking about Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, who in PPR are number 8 and number 10 fantasy point scorers right now, do you know who the top 3 quarterbacks are fantasy points scored this season so far?
Let's see here. I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers.
Nope.
Okay.
Aaron Rodgers, number 7.
Let's see here. I'm going to go. Let's go with Cam Newton.
He is number 3. Very good.
Cam Newton.
Yeah, he's number 3.
All right, I like that. So let me see. Let me get one more guess so I can get at least 2 out of 3.
Oh, yeah, I think you can get the next 2.
Let's see.
Guy you and I talk about is MVP.
Matt Ryan.
Nope. Matt Ryan, number 6. I'm talking about danger Russ Wilson.
Oh, of course. Yeah, Russell Wilson, 5 touchdown passes on Sunday.
Number
of course.
1 fantasy point scoring quarterback this far through 2 games. Number 2, Joe, you got any guesses? He's been an unlikely top 2 fantasy quarterback.
Man. Joe Burrow?
Nope, it is Josh Allen, the guy I dropped Drew Brees for. Drew Brees is the number 22 overall fantasy quarterback, and that's why I said you could drop Drew Brees. But, there's guys that are ahead of Drew Brees, like Joe Burrow, Gardner Minshew, Ryan Tannehill, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Ryan, Derek Carr, Jared Goff, Jimmy Garoppolo, Matt Stafford, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and Tom Brady, who are all ahead of Drew Brees. So you talked earlier about this was the week where we saw that, you don't have to draft a quarterback early because you can stream a quarterback. You can pick up a guy late that could end up like Josh Allen or Cam Newton. Cam Newton was like a 16th round pick, I think.
Cam Newton went really late. In retrospect, I wish I had him. I'm trying to get Gaines to trade him to me in a couple of my leagues, so we'll see what happens.
Kyler Murray is number 4. Dak Prescott number 5. That's your top 5.
That's unbelievable. It is unbelievable. Yep. Well, there's always the unpredictable, and we talked about Josh Allen being a candidate, and he's really performing so far. So we're going to see if he can keep it up. So Tooch, start and sit time. Let's do it.
Right. Yep.
So quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about your guy, because we briefly talked about him already.
Thursday night, Gardner Minshew versus the Dolphins. Poor defense. Minshew, 3 touchdowns in his first game of the season, 3 touchdowns in his second game of the season, and a cherry matchup on Thursday, Joe. I like Gardner Minshew this week versus the Dolphins. I'm thinking about starting him over Lamar.
I like Minshew. I like the magic. I like everything about that. And another guy that we like a lot is Superman, Cam Newton. He was been going nuts. The Raiders last night, they were able to contain Drew Brees without Michael Thomas, and Emmanuel Sanders, I believe, had 0 catches in that game. But I don't think they can contain Cam Newton the way that they did Drew Brees. So I imagine that's going to be a high-scoring game. But these are not the Raiders of the past. I'm still looking forward to this game, Tooch.
Right, the Raiders traveling almost across country from Las Vegas to Boston. I'm riding Cam Newton while he's hot. He's running the ball. He looks fantastic, looks energized. He's finally hooking up with Julian Edelman, who had 179 yards receiving. I think 11 catches. So Julian Edelman back, looks to be healthy. I know he was in. He looked injured his first game. This game he's back. Game 2, and he exploded. Saved some people from getting chopped and guillotined.
He did. He saved your buddy Casey.
I told him before that night game. I told him, man, you better hope you get a big game out of Edelman. And boy, Edelman delivered. Yeah,
that guy was beat, man. He played hard in that game. So props to Edelman there. And then Tooch, I got to go with Ryan Fitzpatrick. We like that Thursday night game. The Fitz magic continues against the Jaguars. I think it's going to be a shootout, so I love that.
Right.
We talked about Ryan Tannehill already against the Vikings. It's a great matchup. Minnesota looks horrible.
Terrible on defense.
And I think at one point during that game, Kirk Cousins had a 0 quarterback rating.
He finished with negative fantasy points, Joe.
But how is a 0 quarterback rating even possible? That's what I want to know.
It was terrible. I'm sad that I drafted Dalvin Cook. I love Dalvin Cook's talent, but the Vikings are they're going to be awful this year.
Speaking of someone coming to waivers, I think soon, and guillotine, I think he's coming.
Dalvin Cook, yeah, maybe. And I like Mitchell Trubisky versus the Falcons. Falcons are terrible against the pass and the quarterback, so I think Trubisky has a chance to score some points. And then your guy, Joe, versus the Lions.
My guy, Kyler Murray, who I think is going to end the season as a top 3 fantasy quarterback. That's my prediction.
He's almost there already.
He's a beast.
If you're playing Kyler Murray this week, you're playing a fantasy owner who has Kyler Murray going against you, you better lose. You better watch out, because I think Kyler Murray has a chance to put up 50 points.
I have him in Adam Rank's league, Tooch, and my team is unbelievable. Both you and I beat Adam Rank to start the season.
Oh, poor Adam. Sorry, Adam. I love Adam.
But Adam Rank, we love you. We hope to have you on later in the season.
And then we can rub it in.
Right, but by then he'll probably have even the score. But we'll see.
No, I got to go back and look at that, guys. Yeah.
But let's move on to wide receivers. Move on to running backs here.
Yeah. Yep.
2 guys, Josh Kelly and Austin Eckler, 2 guys that had pretty good games, surprisingly, against the Chiefs last week.
Joe, those are my picks. I wanted the top 4 running backs are like the top 3 running back picks. Aside from Saquon Barkley because he's injured. But number 2, 3, and 4 are Kamara, McCaffrey, and Elliott, as expected. At the top. You know who number 1 is?
Overall at running back.
Yes. Currently after 2 weeks.
Raheem Mostert?
A huge week last week. Is Aaron Jones.
Of course.
We finished
talked about him.
Overall last year. He's number 1 this year. Yeah. I don't know why he's so disrespected. I think he went in the 2nd round in our draft.
I mean, you can't beat that for value. You got to look for value in those drafts. So I love that.
Now, what do you think he'll be next year? Sorry to get us off track, but
assuming that he finishes the season healthy, he will absolutely be a first-round draft pick.
I think so too. All right, so Josh Kelly, Austin Eckler versus the worst run defense of the Panthers. Who do you like in the next game, Joe?
You got to go with Miles Sanders. He's throwing it together. He's going against the Bengals. We saw that they couldn't really stop much of anything.
Mm-hmm.
That defense is horrible. I would have won my bet if they were halfway decent because but at least the Giants they did cover. They covered anyway, but it was a late garbage cover.
Josh Kelly might still be out there on the waiver wires, you think?
If he is out there, you want to pick him up. Good matchup.
He's kind of like the new Melvin Gordon over there in Chargers land.
Kind of, yeah. He fills that void.
Yeah. Are you worried about Austin Eckler?
Not really. I think once they get things going, he'll get going. I mean, Justin Herbert.
You think Herbert is the guy to win that job sooner or later?
Well, his coach came out and said that when Tyrod comes back, he has the job, but you can't argue with almost beating the Chiefs when you had no business almost beating the Chiefs. So I think Herbert wins that job sooner than later.
I think so too. I thought Herbert almost won that game for them. I think the coaching might have lost that game, Joe. I don't want to.
And he was cool, calm, and collected. So
yeah.
I like Herbert. I like that team, and I like the value of those guys moving forward.
Yep.
Sony Michel, another guy against the Raiders. We saw the horrible tragedy that happened to James White and his family. His dad died in a car accident. His mother in critical condition. I've not heard any updates about his mother, but regardless, you got to expect James White to possibly miss another game, depending on the situation. So because of that, Sony Michel, nice play against the Raiders. And my guy, James Conner, who had a big game after being hurt last week.
Yeah,
no one started him because he was banged up, but he had a hell of a game, and now he gets to go against the Texans, who's run defense.
He faked us out, Joe.
He did fake us out, and the Texans run
game week 1 and let Benny do his thing. Then we're like, what the hell? And then he comes back and nobody started him. He was on my bench because I thought he was still hurt. Then he ends up getting the start and he ends up going nuts. It's like,
if I didn't start him in the guillotine league, I'd be going home. So at least I started him.
Oh, good move.
But I had no money. I didn't have many options, so that helps.
Right.
But like I said, Connor's a guy, great matchup against the Texans. They can't stop the run.
Mm-hmm.
That defense does not look good. J.J. Watt looks lost compared to usual, which is weird. Right. And then of course, Kamara against the Packers. That'll be a great matchup.
Yep, looking good, Alvin Kamara. Now, guy that's not on the list, I forgot to put on there. How do you like James Robinson in this game against the Dolphins?
I love Robinson. You might hear me mention his name later. Hint, hint.
All right. Very nice. Very nice.
And Tooch, why don't you take us through the wide receivers? Must start.
Wide receivers. So an unlikely guy atop the wide receivers is that nobody's close. This guy is the number 1 fantasy point scorer for PPR as a wide receiver. Joe, do you know who he is?
Calvin Ridley.
Calvin Ridley's got 4 touchdowns. Nobody else has 3. A few guys got 2. He's got 63.8 fantasy points.
Wow.
And the next guy is DeAndre Hopkins at 49.9. But Calvin Ridley, Joe, I've got him on the rank league. Quite happy that I drafted him.
Beast.
I tried to get him a lot of them. He was going, 3rd, 4th round, so places where he went 3rd round, I kind of missed on him. I probably would be happy taking him in the 3rd or 2nd round this year.
Sure.
Hindsight. But, after Ridley, Hopkins, Adams, and Stephon Diggs, the guy that I gave up on, Joe.
A guy that you gave up on. I picked him up and I traded him for James White.
Very nice. And John Brown, of course, at number 9. So either one of those guys are getting made superstars by Josh Allen. And Robbie Anderson, number 5. So that's your top 5. A guy who probably went undrafted in a lot of. He did. Yep. So
he's the guy we talked about picking up last week on the show.
That's right. He's got averaging about 22 fantasy points per game. So if you picked him up, you're a happy camper.
Yes, but we'll get to him later. He's a guy that you probably don't want to start this week, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
Right on.
You want to get through the rest of the wideouts, Tooch, for the starts?
Yep. And this is like a 2 sides of the coin. I like the Cowboys wide receivers versus the Seahawks, and the Seahawks wide receivers versus the Cowboys.
Fantasy gold.
Like we said, this should be a good game for quarterbacks and wide receivers. Fantasy all around. This is the game to get your players in.
Yep, and then same thing. The Titans wide receivers against that horrible Vikings secondary.
Yep. guys like Adam Humphries and Corey Davis might still be on your waiver wire. Who do you like better if you were to pick up one of those guys? Joe? You like Adam Humphries? You like Corey Davis?
I like Corey Davis right now. I like them both, but I like Corey Davis. Criminally underowned in fantasy.
I'm kind of leaning Humphrey as well. I think, AJ Brown is out. Corey Davis might get the better coverage corner and leave Humphreys, who does a lot of work out of the slot. He's a guy that, like, you'll look back in like the past 5 games he's been in, he's had double-digit fantasy points. He's one of those guys, whereas like Corey Davis will throw up a big game, then disappear for 2 or 3 games, and throw up a big game. That's kind of why people who had Corey Davis in the past have kind of been reluctant to pick him up now. But
that's true.
Those 2 guys have potential for double-digit this week. I like the Titans wide receivers.
And we talked about the Jaguars going against the Dolphins. You love those wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Laviska Shenault's a guy I really like. He's been explosive.
He was running the ball too, like a running back. They're giving him carries out of the backfield.
Got to take what you can get, man, in fantasy.
And then Keelan Cole is another guy. He might be out there on the waiver wire, heavily targeted by Minshew. I think he's got more targets than DJ Chark, who's considered the number 1 wide receiver over there. But the tight end, Tyler Eifert, scored a touchdown, Joe, in that game.
Yeah, the often injured Tyler Eifert, but hey, he's healthy now. He could be a good waiver, flyer fill-in, especially during bye weeks.
Yeah, maybe his arrows, he's trending upward, with the Minshew magic. You might want to hop on the Tyler Eifert, the streaming tight end bandwagon.
You got the magic, you got to see what happens with the magic. And
to
close out wide receivers too. We got A-Rob, Allen Robinson going against the Falcons secondary.
Yep.
Got to love that matchup come Sunday. He's going to eat and eat well.
I think so.
And next, Tooch, you got to talk about your guys. This is a guy the 2 of us talked about a lot the offseason.
Yeah.
The Redskins don't have much, but you got Terry McLaurin going against the Browns.
Yeah, and he had a great game last week. That's what you're expecting for him to have. The 100 yards, the touchdown. We should see it. Browns don't really have that great of corners. They're banged up there now. Another guy on the Redskins who started to show some promise is Antonio Gibson, the guy who had very little college experience. He's a running back. He's a wide receiver. He's a specialist. It's I think this is a little turn of the tide for Antonio Gibson. I think you're gonna, if you drafted him and stashed him, I think you're happy.
You're
gonna be happy in the next few weeks.
You got to be very happy in the next few weeks, Tooch. And let's move on to our starts for tight end. And why don't you walk us through tight end a little bit?
Stat, I've been dying. So you got your Travis Kelce at the top, which is why you drafted him. You got the Walrus, Darren Waller,
Waller.
The next 5 guys, or 8, the next 5, 6 guys you could have picked up anywhere in this draft. So I'll tell you, number 3, Joe, and just throw a name out there. You'll probably hit the dartboard.
Fantasy tight end. Let's see.
Yep.
Let's think here. Mark Andrews.
Mark Andrews, number 10 overall. Number 3, Jonnu Smith, the guy who breakout. He's the number 3 fantasy scorer, PPR. Number 4, Noah Fant.
Wow.
And number 5, Tyler Higbee. Those are your top 5. Mike Gesicki, number 6. Dallas Goedert, number 7. Jordan Reed, number 8, only in 1 game. Scored 27 fantasy points.
Holy smokes.
TJ Hawkinson, number 9. Mark Andrews, number 10. Hunter Henry and Hayden Hurst are 11 and 12. And a guy if he's out there, you could try and get him, is Jordan Akins on the Houston Texans. He's a guy that you could hear a little bit more of. And then Dalton Schultz, in only 1 game, scored 23 fantasy points. He's at number 14.
He's a guy I liked last week, too.
Yep. One of our picks last week. So he's a guy that's available. Him, Jordan Akins. I think Mike Gesicki might even be out there.
Well, Tooch, that's a great segue into our starts at tight end this week. We got to start things off with Mike Gesicki. Huge game this week. Now he gets to go against the Jaguars on Thursday night. He's the safety blanket that we talked about, Tooch.
Yeah, I mean, he's he made some great catches. He's got great hands. He just doesn't do a lot after he catches the ball. But hell, you're getting 11 targets. Doesn't matter, man. You're getting
right.
points.
It doesn't matter. A tight end, it doesn't matter.
Yep. So I like Gesicki on Thursday night. I'm telling you, Thursday night you're going to see a lot of people who are smart enough to get their fantasy players in that game, come out with an early lead, on the week after Thursday.
Oh, for sure. And of course,
don't get left behind with those points on your bench.
No, don't get left behind, Tooch. And of course, we don't really have to tell you, but Travis Kelce monster matchup against the Ravens. You're rolling with Kelce every single week because the guy's also a target machine.
Now, do you know the worst teams against the tight end are the Browns, the Eagles?
I was say the Browns for sure.
The Jaguars, the Saints, the Titans, surprisingly, the Falcons, the football team, and the Ravens.
So the Ravens are not good against the tight end, that's for sure.
Against the tight end, maybe they'll clean that up, but that's why we have these matchups here for you guys. So, of course, you're starting. Don't feel any worry about starting Travis Kelce. And Tyler Higbee versus the Bills. Like the Bills. The Bills are giving up an average of 10 fantasy points a game to the tight end, which isn't bad. I mean, Tyler Higbee had 3 touchdowns last week.
Yeah, he won't do that against the Bills, though.
I mean, they're banged up at linebacker. That's why I like that matchup. Tremaine Edmonds, I think, is hurt. He may return this week. I don't know. But I'll check the injury report for that one.
For sure, brother. And then Jimmy Graham going against the Falcons. Jimmy Graham's been a target machine in the red zone for the Bears. I like him to at least score once in this game. Jimmy G, get it going. That's going to be a game that there's going to probably be a handful of points scored. The Bears defense, not as good as we thought they were, Tooch.
Right. And, the Browns and the Eagles face each other. They're the two teams who are the worst against the tight end. So Zach Ertz is on the Eagles and Austin Hooper on the Browns.
Yep, you got to go with that, man.
Alex Goddard and Zach Ertz on the Eagles. Get those guys in your lineup.
And you already talked about your super sleeper, Tooch, and your super sleeper of the week was Drew Sample against the Eagles. I love it.
Yep. Yeah, I love is it Bengals and Eagles? I'm sorry, Joe.
Right.
Browns are playing Washington. So you want to get Logan Thomas in versus the Browns and Drew Sample in versus the Eagles. So if you're streaming tight ends, you can get those guys, right? But get those guys for one fantasy buck. But they've got a good matchup this week, those two tight ends. Nobody owns.
They sure do. And Tooch, let's get into our starts of the week. These are the starts that we like that are not like a given start. It's not someone that you're automatically going to start every week.
Right.
So let's go with our start of the week at quarterback. I'm going with Ryan Tannehill versus the Vikings.
Yep.
That secondary is horrendous. Ryan Tannehill's going to have a big day. I love it. Streaming quarterback, especially in daily fantasy.
He looks great. And like I said, the past 7-8 games, he's had 20 or more fantasy points. So how can you not like that floor? Anytime a player scores 20 points, 30 points, that's success of getting them in the lineup.
Absolutely, brother. Who's your quarterback start of the week?
I like Gardner Minshew. Like I said, I'm thinking about starting him over Lamar Jackson. I was thinking about starting him against the Dolphins. So I'll take Minshew, say 3 touchdowns a week. I'll take that.
There you go, man. And running back, my start of the week, a guy we talked a little bit about earlier, James Robinson of the Jaguars going against Miami on Thursday night. Robinson's just running all over guys, and I don't think that's going to stop on Thursday night, Tooch.
He gets a lot of touches, so you got to like it. I'm hoping that they keep him in there even when Raquel Armstead comes back from injury. I think this kid deserves it. He's an every down back. He catches the ball. I think he had 6 or 8 catches last week, and went over 100 yards. So you got to like it.
For sure, brother. And let's talk a little bit about our wide receiver starts of the week.
Oh, my running back is Kenyon Drake.
Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped right over your pick. Sorry.
I think you're going to see a big game out of Kenyon Drake. So if you're thinking about playing fantasy, see how much daily fantasy to see how much Kenyon Drake is. get him in your fantasy lineup.
That's a great matchup. And Tooch, why don't you tell us about your wide receiver start of the week?
My guy is Allen Robinson versus the Falcons. I think if the Falcons offense starts really putting up points and the Bears are forced to throw the ball often, I'm hoping we're not going to see a 7-rush game where the Bears only hand the ball off to the running back only 7 times. But I mean, the Falcons can put up a lot of points. They air it out. They have talented wide receivers. The Bears have good cornerbacks, but Matt Ryan, he's good. Dirk Cotter really loves to throw the ball. So if the Bears don't get a pass rush going, they could be in for a long day, and they'll have to be airing it out too. And Allen Robinson is Mitch's favorite target. So let's see how it goes. I mean, Mitch looks Allen Robinson's way. Falcons secondary is not good. So I like Robinson to have a big day.
Let him eat. And I got another guy that's going to eat Tooch, and Tyler Boyd going against the Eagles. He looks like the number 1 wide receiver for the Bengals. A.J. Green getting a lot of targets, but he's not getting a lot of catches.
Yeah.
I think he had 11 targets on Thursday night. I think he caught 3 balls. Tyler Boyd getting around 8 or 9 catches a game. He scored a touchdown last week. You got to start Boyd against that horrible, horrible Eagles secondary. I love him this week.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to get him. I've got him on my bench on one team. I'm going to have to reconsider, Joe.
I love me some Tyler Boyd this week. I love him. And Tooch, let's close things out with tight end. I'm gonna go deep into the toolbox for this one, Tooch. At tight end, I'm starting Mo Alley Cox from the Colts against the Steelers. This is a guy that Phillip Rivers looked at often on Sunday. He kind of came out of nowhere, but Rivers seems to like him, Tooch, and when he likes his tight end, you got to get all in on that.
Yeah, I like it. He's a big target. He's a big, tall kid. He's like 270 pounds. So I put up 100 yards on 5 catches, 111 yards, I think.
Yeah.
You got to like that. And Jack Doyle injured right now. Steelers, of course, they have a good defense. The Colts also have a really good defense. So that game might not be as high scoring as everyone thinks, but I like that matchup for Big Mo.
And Tooch, who's your tight end start of the week?
My start of the week is Jonnu Smith again. I want to keep rolling with him versus the Vikings. Vikings just put one of their star linebackers on injured reserve. They're banged up. They've got no pass rush. They've got terrible cornerbacks. They've got some good safety play, but Jonnu Smith, he's more like a wide receiver. I like him to continue his tear through the NFL fantasy.
I like it. We talk about him a lot going into the year, Tooch, and
yeah.
We're not going to talk about every single sit, but we're going to give our sits of the week, Tooch. And I'm going to go with my sit of the week, and that's Texans wideouts against the Steelers. That Steelers defense is very, very good. I don't imagine Watson's going to have a whole lot of time in this game, so I'm sitting all the Texans wideouts.
Right.
And then my honorable mention sit of the week, Tooch, is the aforementioned earlier in the show, Robbie Anderson, who's had a great start to the season, but now he's got to go against the Chargers, whose secondary has looked outstanding through 2 games. They really did a nice job containing the Chiefs wide receivers on Sunday. I am not starting Robbie Anderson this week, Tooch.
I've got good cornerbacks on the Chargers, and I don't think that the Chargers will have a lot of room to roam on that one. So and Panthers will have a lot of room to roam there. That Chargers defense is one of the better defenses in the league.
I agree, Tooch. What about your sit of the week?
My sit of the week, of course, is David Johnson versus the Steelers. The Steelers are one of the best run defenses in the league. And then he's also on the Texans.
Yeah.
So Robert Woods versus the Bills. I think Woods is going to struggle a little bit as he goes against Tre'Davious White, returning to his former team, the Bills. I like Robert Woods. There's no doubt
Bobby Trees.
He's going to get a few more. He'll get some catches. He hasn't been lighting it up like we could. But once that schedule for the Rams loosens up a little bit, Robert Woods should be back to form. But he's got a tough matchup this week, Joe.
And both Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp getting long-term deals with the Rams, so they're all both tied up.
I like
literally.
Cup in this one. He's got a better matchup in the slot.
Absolutely, brother. And Tooch, we had a great start to the season last week with some great trash talk.
Mm-hmm.
And it's time for another trash talking with the Goon and Tooch.
Mm-hmm.
We got a fun segment for you guys this week. And what do you say, Tooch? We take a deep dive into trash talking with the Goon and Tooch.
This is Trash Talking with the Goon and Tooch.
This week's submission comes from diehard barfly Ron Rupnow, and this is a message he sent to his league and the responses he got back shortly afterward.
Hi. So by now, we've all had a chance to let the results of the first week sink in. I'm sure it's obvious to everyone that once again I have the dominant team. Some may be considering giving up and accepting that I will most likely take the championship once again. Please resist this urge. Sure, first place is probably out of reach, but someone is going to get second place. It could be you, so keep your chin up and watch the waiver wire. I'm not sure that I understand part 2. They want me to say these lines like from the screenshot? Laugh out loud, Uncle Ron. So true, you're the week 1 Mitch Trubisky of the league. Did you see how many points he scored? Haha! I did, but like Mitch, you will be benched by the middle of the season.
You have a problem with the way I'm coaching?
No. It's just that, well, like I was yelling earlier, it seems like anyone with half a brain could coach better than you.
Uh-huh, half a brain, huh? Well, you know what? It sounds like you just volunteered.
And that was this week's edition of Trash Talking with the Goon and Tooch. Man, oh man, Tooch. We got some great trash talk from Ron Rupnow's Fantasy League. I think that's his personal family league, Tooch.
That was great. And thanks to Dan Aguirre, the voice of Barroom Radio.
Absolutely. Great read by Dan Aguirre there. Love Dan, and thank him every week for cutting those little tracks for us. That it totally makes the bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And
of course, a huge thanks to Ron Rupnow for sending us that great trash talk. Don't forget, every single week, hit us up on Twitter at FFBGoon, at Joe Mandel, and at Santucci_John. Send us your best trash talk. You want to get featured on the show? Send us a great little line of trash talk from your league. We love it. Fantasy football is all about the trash talk, Tooch, and we love hearing it from our listeners. So send it our way. We'll put it on the show.
That's right. And, Sunday mornings, get us your questions quickly, and we'll try and get to them as fast as we can, and catch us on Barfly Tailgate Show every Sunday morning about 10 o'clock, Joe, 10 a.m. Central.
Yeah, I'd say about 10, between 10 and 10:30 Central. That's when it's 9 and 9:30 because of the Eastern time zone, I believe. But either way. Oh, and Ron had something to say about his trash talk. I also got a nice pop upside the head. Sorry, Ron, but again, thank you for sending the trash talk. It's great fun. If there's more from your league, send it our way. Even tell all the other family members to send us their trash talk. We've had some good stuff going on in the Goon League and in the Barroom League for trash talk, so keep your eyes peeled on that. There might be some stuff coming your way.
In the chat room before we sign off.
And before we get wrapping, guys, if you have more questions in the chat room, please send them our way. We did get a question earlier, Tooch. Kellis Talks asked us if we've ever heard of a vampire league.
Oh, I'm interested, though. What is this?
I have not heard what a vampire league is. I don't know if Kellis is still there, but Adam Shawm replied, and he says he thinks it's when you build the entire team from waiver wires. So I don't know. I've never heard of a vampire league. I'm going to look it up, and we'll talk about it next week. But that could be interesting if you build a team off waivers. I just have no idea how it would work.
Yeah, I don't either. Was it? What do you have to bid on guys every week? Your whole team?
I have no idea. I don't know how you would draft. The whole thing I got to learn about, but I'm intrigued by it, Tooch. But I don't think anything beats the Guillotine League, my friend.
The Guillotine League is fun, man. I got to tell you. Yeah, it's fun.
We got some big names on free agency this week. Bids going on tomorrow afternoon.
DeAndre Hopkins,
Cooper Kupp.
I think I might place a bid on one of those guys, Joe.
I have bids on both of those guys, Tooch.
Very cool.
My team has not been performing, so I need to add some players.
Last week you got a little scare, huh? A little bit of a scare.
I got a little bit of a scare, but thankfully.
Felt the fire nipping at your feet, the blade falling.
Yeah, I spent a whopping $2 in week 1, so I think I'll be spending a lot more than that week 2.
Right. I've been pretty happy with my team. I was near the top scoring in that one. I could still use maybe an extra player. I think I'm safe for a few more weeks with some of the guys I've got. It's hard to draft when you're drafting with 16 other guys for a 17-man league.
It's tough.
You get after like the third round, you're like, oh man, there's not much left. You gotta scour.
Yeah, and now we gotta pay using our fake free agent bucks.
Yeah. So now I put in I was able to pick up DJ Moore last week.
Yes, I saw $30 or something, right?
How much did I pay? I think I paid $89 for him.
Either way,
about 10% of my fab, 9% of my fab. Out of 1,000. Yeah, 9%.
Spoiler alert, I will be spending much more than that on DeAndre Hopkins, Tooch.
Well, he's the number 2 fantasy wide receiver right now.
I will tell you right now, you will not be winning your bid for DeAndre Hopkins.
I've got some secondary bids I'll be putting on other guys. I like there's some guys out there, man.
I've got some secondary bids as well.
Yep. I could use some help, but I've got decent running backs in that league. Although Raheem Mostert is going to be out this week, but I still have Kenyon Drake and James Robinson and Josh Kelly. So I think I'll be okay. I'd like to add another running back though. So the guy who got chopped didn't leave much. He left Kareem Hunt. That's it.
Hey, Kareem Hunt's pretty good. I traded you for Kareem Hunt.
Kareem Hunt, very good. He outscored Nick Chubb last week. So, but the waiver wire guys, running backs, we talked about at the beginning of the show. Guys like Devontae Freeman, Darrell Henderson, Malcolm Brown, Wayne Gallman, Deion Lewis, Mike Davis, Reggie Bonifant. They're all out there.
Russell Gage,
Jerick McKinnon. They're all out there. So you can put in a bid on these guys. Keelan Cole is out there still.
Mike Davis, Tooch, and I are pretty in alignment that he will be the top waiver pick this week.
I think so. I think it's either him or Devontae Freeman. And the wide receivers, Michael Pittman Jr. might be a pretty good pickup. He's Paris Campbell went down with an injury, and T.Y. Hilton hasn't really built up that chemistry with Phillip Rivers. And
T.Y. dropped a wide open touchdown pass in the end zone.
I tell you, Michael Pittman, 6'4", 220. That's a nice big target for Phillip Rivers. So
could be a very sneaky pick, Tooch.
I tell you, yeah.
And that's why you guys listen to the Fantasy Football Game podcast. We appreciate you guys tuning in with us all night. Thanks to everyone that's been with us in the chat. You got Adam Sham, Ron Rupp now.
All right.
Kellis Talks, AC, the Bearded Bears fan. It's Bixby, Kessick III. Although Gandia was in the house, so was Grant Sims.
The barkeeper keeping tabs on us.
Yeah, we had Swanky 32 to start the show. Same thing with Steve Zimmerman.
I love Zim, love Swanky. Is Kessick still out there? I love Big John.
Yeah, Kessick I think he's there listening, but we also had King Pookie Nation Alvarez in the house.
All right.
So lots of people tuned in tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in with us all night, sticking around. Answered all your questions. If you have more that, we're not live, of course, when we get off the air, but if you want to get a hold of us, hit Tooch and I up on Twitter. Tooch, where can people find you on Twitter?
At Santucci_John. I will help you with some questions on, if you hit us up, Fantasy Football Goon or Joe Mandel or Santucci_John, all of us, all three of those places you can get us to answer some questions for.
And if you're going to ask a question, you might as well tag us all in it. Tag at FFB Goon, at Joe Mandel, and at Santucci_John. Put them all in the same tweet, and then we can definitely get you your answer. So we answer a lot of questions on Sundays, Thursdays, Mondays, all throughout the week. And we're going to answer your questions all season long. Right, Tooch?
That's right. And do you have any last-minute targets, Joe? I got a few I could throw out there before we sign off.
Why don't you go with yours, Tooch? We'll let you go with yours, and then I'll do mine.
Guy who just missed a big touchdown, Marcus Valdez-Scantling on the Packers with Devontae Adams banged up. I like that pickup if you can get your hands on him. He's not owned in every league. That would be a good pickup. Packers really throwing the ball this year. And then Jalen Reagor on the Eagles getting a lot of touchdowns. He's been on 88% of snaps this season.
Oh, yeah.
So, just a matter of time before Carson Wentz is able to break out and that young receiver find some pay dirt. So might be a sneaky pickup. And then KJ Hamler on the Broncos with Cortland Sutton out. So watch out for Broncos wide receivers.
I love that, Tooch. And I'll close things out with two sneaky pickups. I'll go with three.
All right.
I'm going to go with the defense first. And
yes.
you talked about them a little while ago, Tooch. The Indianapolis Colts. That defense has been very good. And guess who they get to play this week, Tooch? The New York Jets.
The Jets, right, yeah.
And I think Sam Darnold will be seeing ghosts this week.
Yes, that's a great matchup. The Jets cannot do much. Right? They might be the worst team in the league. Looking at a number 1 draft pick, maybe they'll be in line for that top quarterback.
For sure, brother. And then, we got to talk about the Patriots team. We talked about Julian Edelman, but, N'Keal Harry really starting to step up as well. He's getting a lot of balls thrown his way. He's one injury away from being the number 1 wide receiver. Harry's not getting enough respect, so I like Harry. And then lastly, Tooch, at tight end, Jordan Reed filling in for the 49ers. He had a big day on Sunday. It doesn't look like Kittle is going to play. He's doubtful.
Right.
So at least for 1 more week, maybe 2 more weeks, Old Man River Jordan Reed worth a pickup.
Yeah, and there's some leagues where, believe it or not, Jonnu Smith is out there. I can't believe it, but there's a few. He's out there. Noah Fant is out there too in a few leagues. So those 2 guys, man. We talked about Mo Alley Cox with Jack Doyle out. That's a good pickup. And Dalton Schultz, who took over for injured Blake Jarwin, had 9 targets. Scored 24 fantasy points last week in his first start.
Oh boy. Or as Mickey Mouse would say, oh boy.
That's what we thought Blake Jarwin was going to do. So Dalton Schultz is doing it right, picking up right where Blake Jarwin was supposed to leave off.
Go get him, folks. And again, those are the last-minute tips and tricks on the Fantasy Football Goon podcast. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Tooch, as always, I figured it out. You're this way now. Thank you, sir, for sticking around me all night, talking fantasy, and having a good time, buddy. Appreciate you.
The opposite. You're over here.
Phone home.
And thanks to all the Barflies, Aldo Gandia, and Barroom Network. And we'll see you next week. We'll see you Sunday in the Barfly Tailgate Show.
That's right. Don't miss us on the Barfly Tailgate Show every Sunday, right around the time that inactives come out for the first game. You get the great pregame with those guys, and you get some fantasy from us. It's the best of both worlds. And as Tooch quickly said, a huge thank you to Aldo Gandia for letting us do this every week. And a huge thanks to you, the listener/viewer, whether it's a podcast or a video. We appreciate you tuning in. We love you guys. We're going to answer all your questions. We're going to help you win. And to go win those matchups, we'll see you guys next week. And let's watch some football.